Welcome to the Men's Lifeline Academy podcast, where we bring on stellar men who have earned the right to be on this podcast, who have positive influence in their families, communities, and friends. So today we have Doug, who's a former CrossFit athlete, for burnout, and he gained a little bit of weight, and then he took his life, reclaimed it back, so that way he can lose the weight, so he can feel great and ready to take on the day. He's also a father. So, Doug, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, I appreciate you having me here, Zach. Thanks so much.
Of course, I love bringing on men who are scholars of life, who can talk about their stories, have that space, because I think it's always important to have a space where you can share your story and then now use that to help other people to be inspired. So why
Love
don't
it.
you tell us a little bit about yourself, Doug?
First and foremost, a husband and father. So I've been married for, oh gosh, I hope my wife doesn't watch this, 2018. So coming up on 7 years, I guess. And we have a beautiful 2.5-year-old daughter who's just the absolute light of our world. Everything revolves around her, for better or worse right now. But a little bit about me, and let me rewind quite a bit, actually. So I actually grew up overseas. My dad worked for USAID, which is a hot topic right now. And his job took us all around. So I grew up living in Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, Barbados. And then after college, I moved down to the country of Colombia, to Bogota, without much to do, to be honest. I stumbled into a CrossFit gym because I liked working out. I was a basketball player, and it was the only CrossFit gym in the entire country. And I remember meeting the guy who was from New York and introduced myself. I said, "Hey, I'm Doug. I'm from Missouri. You're from New York. We're both from the U.S. What are we doing down here?" And I said, if you need any help around the gym, would love just to learn the ropes. I'm not trying to take business or anything. I just need something to do. I'm out of college. And he said, "Sure, I'll show you how to do the stopwatch and, coach some classes, and you can help me clean the gym and stuff like that." Of course, for free. I wasn't being paid anything, but in exchange, he said he'd teach me how to do things. Right. So fast forward, that became a business partnership. We ended up opening several CrossFit gyms together over the span of 5 years. This was from 2010 to about 2014. Pretty successful down there. I competed at the CrossFit Games, and then went back up to the US, continued in the CrossFit industry for a few more years before I just decided, you know what, I think I need to do like a big boy job, right? I think we all go through that phase where, whether you're an artist or a musician, or in my case, I was a fitness coach. Something's like, am I doing life correctly? Or do I need to be moving up and making more money and getting a mortgage and doing all that? So in my mind, I thought that's where I need to be. That's what I need to do. So I left fitness, went into tech startup out in Los Angeles. Which actually did really good at. I think it was a lot of my competitive nature and my ability to work really hard and just have that mindset that clicks on of I'm just going to grind harder than anybody else. And it went really well for me out in Los Angeles in the tech startup scene. Eventually moved to Nashville for a kind of a larger corporation and just crashed and burnt out hard, gained a lot of weight, and mentally also just gained a lot of weight in the form of depression and anxiety and just hopelessness. And so got myself out of that, not to be too long-winded here, but today I'm an insurance adjuster, which is just independent work, and I love it. I created a brand in 2023 called Fittest on the Block, which is all just about neighborhood fitness for dads that they don't necessarily want to compete in CrossFit, but they'd like to get in shape and maybe look a little bit better mowing the lawn. And then I also help my wife with her business, and she's a doctor of physical therapy, and she absolutely rocks it and crushes it with what she does. And so I help her with kind of the admin stuff on there.
No, it's awesome, especially all that life that you experienced, one being out of, the US, and actually not just, vacationing, but actually working hard to make a living, then coming back here to actually go back to work and everything, and trying to find yourself. And that's always one of the more challenging tasks is, what am I supposed to do? And when we kind of lose that purpose-driven life, that's when people get really hopeless. What am I even here for? What do I want to do? And it's sometimes been really fed to you, well, you gotta have a corporate job, you gotta make 6 figures, you gotta do X, Y, and Z, versus what's something that you can do that you enjoy, that you appreciate, that you put value into it.
Right.
and at the same time they can have a living because we all gotta live.
Yeah, that's right. We still do have to pay mortgage every month. So
Yeah. But I thought it was really cool because I know this is probably a handful of months back, but I thought it was really cool how you renovated your garage and made a whole space, made that for your wife. Yeah.
yeah, that's right.
So I thought that was so cool how, and also you talk about how it cost 32,000, and then at the same time you're able to pay it off quickly because your wife is very successful at what she does and has your support.
Yeah, I think like with anything in life, I think that when you do have more of a clear like vision of what you want, you become that much more successful at it, right? When I was working in the corporate life, I'm not sure if you or anybody else relates to this, but like you it's for me it was easy to lose the vision. Like I was there
Mhm.
working hard, but for what? And I couldn't figure out what was anymore, and so I stopped being successful. And that was very frustrating to me. But with the gym, for example, we have a detached garage. We could have converted it into anything, an Airbnb, a mother-in-law's suite, a game, like whatever, we wanted, we could have made it. But we decided to invest the money into making it a gym. And I knew, because I had 7 years of just like experience building big gyms and buying equipment and laying it out and how
Mhm.
the floor should look and everything. It was so second nature to me. I forgot how easy this is to me. And so we built it and it was like beautiful. And like my wife started to use it and she started to run classes out of it. She was like, maybe I should have some clientele that I can see in this space. And I was like, go for it. And so it turned out to be really successful. We love it. Obviously, for us, it's amazing having a very nice gym in our backyard. And then my wife makes money on it. We've made all of our investment back already. Plus, she was able to quit her job and now just dedicate to this full time because it's bringing enough monthly income that she could do that. I can make content out of it, so it gets to all be a tax write-off, which was very nice. Yeah. So a lot of benefits to it.
No, I think, and now that's talking about visionary. That's visionary,
Right.
especially that you've had the experience. And a lot of people is like, well, how am I supposed to do this? And sometimes people forget. It's like, well, you spent 7 years, right? 365 times seven. How many days that brings out, and to really kind of all that expertise.
Yeah.
And let's not discount all those hours that took to do it within a day. Because I'm sure you're working what 10, 15 hours. I'm sure.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So So what led you to being to kind of posting more about fitness and health? I know you've always been a fitness kind of guy, as you talk about being basketball and things like that. So what kind of led up to that passion of fitness?
Yeah. So always grew up playing sports, basketball, volleyball. So in high school, I played basketball, volleyball, soccer, and football, like four sports. Now I was at a very small school overseas, so it was a little easier for me to like
Yeah.
be like a good athlete on any team. But I took that, translated it over into college, where I just enjoyed working out, and then ended up finding CrossFit, and was in the best shape of my life, obviously, in my 20s. And I remember very vividly in my 20s thinking, I can't believe how people let themselves get out of shape. I was like, I will never be that person. I remember having this thought of thinking like, man, this is so easy. Fitness is so easy. It's so easy to be in shape. I don't know why anybody lets themselves go. And
Hmm.
then snap my fingers, I woke up and I was like 40 pounds overweight with like a belly hanging over the belt. And again, another very vivid memory. My wife makes fun of me for it all the time, but we were in a Bed Bath and Beyond, and I pulled out a scale and I stepped on it. And I was just like, this is the first time in a long time. And I was like, what happened? And I was like shook the entire ride home. My wife was like, "What's wrong?" I was like, "I weighed like 225, and this is someone who always weighed 185." I was like, "I weighed 225." I was like, "I've never been in the 200s in my life." And she's like, "It's not that big of a deal." I was like, "No, I'm overweight. Like something needs to change." And yeah, it just snapped at me. I was like, "What am I doing?" And then everything kind of came tumbling down. I was like, my life flashed before me. It was really weird. I was just like, "What am I doing in life in general? Like, how did I let
Hmm.
myself go? What decisions led to this? Why am I chasing this career that I'm not passionate about? Sacrificing things that I am passionate about and love?" And then also just driving my health into the floor. So it's not even just about balancing your passions. It's just about, I feel terrible. I can't go for a mile-long run. I can't do all these things. And so, um, yeah, I decided just to flip it around and challenge myself to get in shape. And I did. I lost the weight, got back in shape, and just really had that realization of like, all the things in my life need to start changing. Otherwise, the fitness will just be short term, and I'll just I'll just gain the weight again and lose that fitness. So, really had to dive back in. Now I'm married. Now I have a kid. Now I have a job. Now I have a mortgage to pay, and just like all those things we talked about,
Right.
fitness is as easy as when you're in your 20s and you're living in a gym full time and you're thinking like, who are those people that let themselves go? Yeah, it was me. So anyway, long story short is that's what really catapulted me back into fitness. And I thought, what better way to just start the journey of like figuring out a business I could do or something that I could kind of latch onto than writing about it and posting videos about it. And so I started to do that. And kind of found that I was decent enough at like writing on Twitter, on X, that I could capture an audience and do some cool things and inspire some people. And I thought, let's keep going down that line and see what happens. And that's exactly what happened. I posted one day on Twitter very early in my days, something along the lines of like, I don't want to be a CrossFit Games champion. I don't want to be this or that. I just want to be the fittest dude on my block. And a bunch of people commented and they were like, hey, you need to pin that. You need to pin that. You need to pin that. And I was like, fittest on the block. There's something. And it kind of just stuck in my head over and over. It was like, buy a domain, register an LLC, like do all this stuff with fittest on the block. And I just ran with it.
No, and that's the power of X, man. Just like you can get one idea, then that just sparks a whole movement.
Yes, absolutely.
So, and I think that's honestly probably one of the hardest struggles is finding a name for yourself that you can live by and be by, especially if you're attaching an LLC to it.
That's
And
right.
that kind of becomes part of your identity of like, okay, this is my goodness, me, my little baby, gotta nurture and take care of her, or else it's not gonna be a baby anymore.
Yeah, it's funny how attached we get to the business names too, even though they're probably kind of meaningless. But like for the owner, that's kind of what drives us and has a lot of sense of pride. So like Fittest on the Block may or may not be the coolest name out there, might not resonate that well, or be like a short like Twitter or Google or whatever kind of like business name. But for me, I was like, I'm keeping it because I like it. It resonates with me. If you know like Ty Romper or Ty Todd on X. Yeah, if I go to his block, I'm probably not the fittest anymore. But you know what? I'm the fittest on my block, and that's what's cool to me, and that's what's important. And like that's what I want to inspire in other people is that you don't have to be the fittest in the entire world. You don't have to be the fittest in your city. You don't have to dedicate hours a day to do a CrossFit competition or a high rocks or run a marathon in record time. But can you get in good enough shape where if you walked around the neighborhood, you could be like, I'm probably fitter than that dad. I'm probably fitter than that dad. And that's kind of cool, right?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of that healthy competition. That's how people stay healthy is they have that healthy version of competition where it's like, all right, you did 25 push-ups in a row, I might do 26. So as long as it sparks that healthy competition, I really don't see any challenge with it. It's like when you get that more egotistical, like, oh man, I'm like the best, no one can beat me. Well,
Yeah,
you might be humbled sooner than you think. So it's just part of life. But
that's
no,
right.
I mean, when I was hearing your name Fitness on the Block, I was thinking like New Kids on the Block. So a lot of people can find you that way as well.
Yes, I've had a few people that are without giving away our ages, but like are of our generation, where like the New Kids on the Block, they were like, oh, that's what I thought of when you said that, and I was like, okay, cool, because that's like something I grew up with.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like, hey, that's just how people can find you on YouTube and other places you might be post. I know you post on Instagram and things like that. So a lot of those little taglines might get caught up and like, oh, who's this guy?
That's right. That's right.
So in taking care of your family and everything, how do you manage your time with all that? Because I know that's not easy when you're trying to create content, also with your wife, also having to use the gym as well.
Yeah, definitely not easy. I'll admit, for me, it's I'm in a very fortunate situation right now, which may not be for a lot of people, but I worked my way into this situation. And so let me give you maybe where I am at today, but
Yep.
where I was at a few years ago when it was a little bit more of a struggle to balance everything. So
Go for it.
where I'm at today is I'm an independent insurance adjuster, which means, I work during storm months. Storm months in the US are typically, anywhere from like March to May is when the wind storms and like those kind of things pick up until hurricane season ends. And during those months, I can be pretty busy. I might work a storm per month. Last year I worked a total of 68 days, I think, including travel. But then outside of those 68 days, I'm completely free. Like I don't report to anybody. I don't have paperwork that I have to do. It's like nothing. And so I literally just go to work the storms and then come home and can do whatever I want with my free time, including staying in shape or helping my wife or posting content and all of those good things. So for me, it's a little bit easier these days to balance my time and figure stuff out. But it wasn't always that way. So before I got into insurance adjusting, right towards the tail end of my corporate career, that's when I was really feeling that hopelessness of not knowing what to do in life and, wanting to figure out a way out and needing to take care of the family and work out and also get out of that corporate world and into something else. And so that's where I would say just the grind and the hard work had to come into play. And I latched onto things that were just way bigger than me to like help me through it. And for me, it was like looking at my daughter, thinking about my wife, and just like every single day physically writing down with pen and paper what my vision was for my family and like what I wanted to leave them with and why I was doing these things for them. And that carried me through. I would work my 9 to 5, just like anybody else out there. I would hang out with my family after work. Daughter would go down at 7 p.m. I would turn the computer on at 7:38 and I'd go to bed at midnight. And in those 4 hours, I would be doing something productive to like get out of the situation I was in. Back then, I was trying to learn e-commerce and that kind of world, or anything else. Like or studying for insurance tests or anything. But I was using that time and then waking up early the next day. And if I had an hour before my daughter woke up, I'd get back on the computer and do it again. And then just lather, rinse, and repeat that until one day you've worked hard enough to like start to see something out there, right? You start to like get a little glimmer of hope. You're like, this is working. I am losing the weight, or I am doing this thing. And then it's even easier to kind of just keep going and push through to the end. But yeah, I got out of that situation and became the insurance adjuster and I'm doing that. And so today I do have a very fortunate situation of like, I get to choose whether or not I want to balance more on the life side or on the work side. And work, I'm very specific on working on things that I'm passionate about, that I'm doing a good job with, that I feel like called to do. And if I don't feel that way, I'm pretty picky about whether or not I'm going to put my time into it.
Oh, sure. Well,
Yeah.
especially with what a lot of people do is, and they're saying, don't necessarily quit your 9 to 5 until you can create like 2 to 3 times your income and everything. So, or adjust your lifestyle. So it's
Yeah.
just one of those things where it does take years, and that as part of that delayed gratification, understanding it's going to be a lot of grinding. You may not always feel like doing something, but if it's important to you, if you're passionate about it, if you have a vision for it,
Yeah.
that's
It
what
always,
makes all the difference.
it always can look on the outside that someone is moving very fast or did something very quickly and must have had a stroke of luck as to how they got there, right? But
Right.
you don't always see the back end of what sacrifice was going on. And so even before I got burnt out and did all that, my wife and I made a very conscious decision after we got married in 2019. She's like I mentioned, a doctor of physical therapy from a private college, which means she had $180,000 of student.
Oh, private.
And we had $10,000 of credit card debt that we used for our wedding. So we had $190,000 of debt when we got married, and we paid it off in 25 months. And we did that by extreme budgeting and working really hard to pick up extra shifts, extra hours. As annoying as it sounds, we followed the Dave Ramsey plan, and we crushed it, and we paid off all the debt. Now, in the moment, that was really hard. It was a lot of fun, to be honest, but it was hard. It was hard work. There was a lot of sacrifice. We were not doing the things that all of our friends were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that decision there is what I honestly think led me to be able to quit my job and pursue insurance adjusting and pursue other stuff and do what I'm doing today, because we paid off all our debt. We bought our house. We saved up an emergency fund. We did all of that before I even got burnt out. So by the time I got burnt out, we were very ready financially to say, cool, let's sock aside about 6 more months of income. And then worst case, I don't have a super income lined up when I quit, but at least we'll have a bigger emergency fund for me to be able to resign and do it comfortably. And so we did. The same thing with my wife. We weren't quite she wasn't like ready to quit her job last year with like business just booming, but she also got burnt out. And you know what we did? We said, let's put aside a few more months of income. We did that very quickly. Now we said, cool, we're comfortable. Let's get her out of the job and dedicate it full time to something she loves. And again, when you're in that situation, it can seem lucky sometimes from the outside in. But man, we worked hard for those 25 months to pay that debt off and put ourselves in that situation. And super proud of that for sure.
Well, as you should be. I mean, it's not easy to pay off in, 25 months, 190,000
Right.
worth of debt. There's a lot of sacrifice, and then that's where I know Dave Ramsey gets a lot of flack, but I mean, that's one thing he's right in. It's like, what do you mean you're going out and spending stuff? Like, you can't,
Yes.
you're broke.
That's right. That's right.
And,
Yeah.
there's going to be a sacrifice. Do you want to stay broke and stay living paycheck to paycheck, or do you want to get rid of all that debt?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So it will take time, but I mean, like you said, extra shift, extra hours. That might be, your wife working on a Saturday versus that Monday through Friday. So that's extra shift. Maybe, 7 days a week. Maybe you had to go in the office for an extra day or so, whatever you can do to really take care of your family. I think that's very noble that that we need to see more of today and to really highlight that.
Yeah.
Do whatever you can to eliminate debt, because from a mindset, financial stress is one of the worst stressors. It's always in the top 5.
Yeah. That's right.
Look at any study, you look at any chart, it's always divorce, death of a loved one or child, and then like financial. It's in that top 3 with that, because it affects all of your life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's why we wake up and do what we do is for money, right? It's like it's a lot of what drives life. You said it earlier. As much as we would all love to just do the things we're passionate about all day, we still have to write our mortgage check on the first of every month, and we can't be that late for it, right?
Nope.
And our cell phone bills and everything still have to get paid. And so, finance is a huge stressor. And that's a lot of what made me feel very overwhelmed and like hopeless when I was getting near that like the end point in the corporate life. Was I thought, what else can I do to make money? And I couldn't see it. I just didn't know. And that not knowing feeling was so bad, man. It was so bad, because you have a nice little, the golden handcuffs kind of stuff. You have that nice little salary, and you got the benefits, and you got your 401k plan, and everything's just comfortable enough to make you really question, like, can I do that on my own? I don't think so. I don't think I could do that on my own, but I hate the job that I'm at. If I can't do it on my own, then this sucks. And you kind of just get stuck in that loop and that cycle. So yeah, being financially literate and being financially free and being debt free and all that stuff, I cannot emphasize it enough for people that are out there listening that are like, I'll carry my car loan, or I'll do this or all that. It feels so much better being debt free. I can guarantee it. And again, as annoying as Dave Ramsey can be, he says something really good when people are especially paying off their mortgage or considering it, and they don't want to do it. And he'll say, look, pay your mortgage off, and if you don't like it, you can always go to the bank and take out another mortgage.
I don't think I've ever heard him say that.
Really good. Yeah, I've always thought that was really good. I was like, yeah, I guess you're right. Like, if you really actually just wanted to go take out another mortgage on your home, you could, but pay it off and see what it feels like to be debt free, and then go back and get in debt if you don't like it too much.
Yeah, well, that's kind of part of the mindset thing too, is when you're so used to being in debt, you don't know what it's like to be free.
Right.
One of those things, and it can be, sometimes people are very visual, so you need to do things like numbers and graphs. So, because if you make your mortgage payment, we've all become accustomed to that we're going to pay higher interest in the beginning. The first year is to be the most expensive year. And every
Yeah.
year after that gets a little bit cheaper. So I mean, imagine what you can do with, like, let's say a $700 interest. We're just talking about interest alone,
Yeah.
that you got to save per month.
Yeah.
Whether that's, going on a nice vacation, like, because he's okay with going on vacations if you go like once or twice, not every, once a month.
Right.
So it's one of those things like, what are you willing to sacrifice? And are you willing to go outside the norm? Like, a lot of people can rationalize, like, right now, the average car loan is like $700 a month. I mean,
Yeah.
that's $4,900 a year. And that's just paying it basic, not more, not less. That's like, so
Yeah.
imagine what you can do with that kind of funds, whether you want to give it to charity, whether you want to invest in your own business, whether you want to just give it a gift, because Dave Ramsey's also good on that. Gives out
Yeah.
money, it's a gift. Don't ask for money, because that's when families break apart and friendships end.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's a funny image for you. Talking about like doing stuff outside the norm.
Yeah.
Um, my wife and I were the people that would go to the grocery store, and we had a budget. Like, this is what we did when we were paying off all the debt. We'd have $400 for the month, so $100 a week, and we'd go
Mhm.
to the like cheapest discount grocery store we could go to, and we would literally weigh our fruits and vegetables and calculate on a calculator how much those were going to cost before we put them in a cart. So, apples or whatever, it's $1.29 a pound. And so we'd look at how much we'd spend. We'd be like, well, we've got, $4 left in our grocery cart that we can spend. And we'd weigh the apples, and it'd be, 4 pounds. And we'd be like, $1.29 times 4, we're going to be over, but take an apple out. We'd take an apple out, and we'd be like, cool, we came in under budget. And we'd like go to checkout. We were so proud. But like, when was the last time you saw someone in the grocery store even using those little scales to weigh their fruits and vegetables?
Probably, honestly, like 2 decades ago, honestly.
Yeah. And this
When
was
people
us.
actually were very careful about how much, and obviously money was a lot different 20 years ago too.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that was us a few years ago. And it sounds weird, and it sounds like a lot of people might be like, you know what, that lifestyle sucks. Like, why would you ever do that and stuff? But it becomes fun. Like, just like anything that sucks, when you do it a few times and you start to get into a rhythm, if it's something that is getting you results, you will end up enjoying it as long as you are getting those results, right? If you're not getting you results and you're just doing it and it sucks, like, then just don't do it. But if it's something that gets you results, working out is the same way. Like, finance and health are so dang similar. But like, you're doing something, and in the moment, people look at you weird, people look at you funny, it hurts, right? Mentally, it's like, this kind of doesn't that much fun. I would be way more fun to do this other thing. But you get done with it, and then you show up the next day to do it. And you kind of go through that grind again, and you show up the next day, and all of a sudden you see a vein pop in your arm, right? Or you came under budget on your spreadsheet, and you're like, huh, what was that? Hold on. You mean the last 3 days of work that I did? Huh, that's kind of, and now it's fun to show up the next day to do that thing. And you're like, I want to see another vein pop in my arm. I want to see this happen. I want to
Right.
see, a little less flab on the guts, and whatever it happens to be. And so, yeah, I mean, other people might have thought it was weird, but for my wife and I, it was like, became very entertaining. It was like, how much money can we save this week? And if we do, we can pay an extra $500 off of our debt this month. And
Yeah. And
if we
that
do that,
adds up over time. That's 6,000 a year.
exactly. And then we start
That's
to, and then that's fun. Then you're like, wow, if we did that, we did 6,000, we could do this. And I think our original goal was 3 years, like 36 months. And so then all of a sudden it was like, we can do it in 33 months. We can do it in this. And then all of a sudden we had one payment left. We were like, we have the money. This is like a $20,000 payment. We we're like, we have the money this month. Let's just pay it off. And we did it in 25 months. So
nice. Well, congratulations to that. It's a huge accomplishment.
thanks.
And hey, don't forget also what Dave Ramsey says about being weird. Be weird. It's good. Why be the normal?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So, have you ever read the book Compound Effect by Darren Hardy?
I have not.
Because a lot of what you're saying really comes from that book.
Okay.
Because he defines luck as when you actually win, preparation meets opportunity. Compound effect. If you keep adding those small wins, eventually your whole life will, be better and be more fruitful. He even says, like, if you want to lose weight, as annoying as it is, literally bring out a notebook with yourself and write down literally everything that you would eat. So kind
Yes.
of like you, like write down if you're doing a budget, write down everything you're spending because then you're gonna think, do I really want to bring this out?
Yeah.
I really want to be that disciplined and or because if you're gonna be healthy, I mean you have to really monitor everything, every micronutrient that goes into your body, just like an athlete. Maybe not to that extreme,
Yeah.
but just that mindset of be aware, okay, what will this do to you? How will this affect your sleep? How will this affect your mood? Because food affects our mood, affects how we feel and everything. So it's really all about are you willing to do the work
Yeah. Absolutely.
and spend the years, emphasis on years to get to that point.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, in this time and age, I mean, we've really lost that where we want things now. We want to be monetized now. We want to have this now, versus what can I learn from this opportunity to continue to grow and develop and to understand if you have a business, it's going to take you 5 years just to get started.
You know what's crazy is like Amazon Prime used to be
Yeah.
really cool because you could get stuff in 2 days. But how often do you go shopping on Amazon Prime now where you literally look for the overnight delivery time? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Oh, it's like
Yeah.
I had that realization the other day. I was like, man, 2 day, like 2 day shipping on Amazon Prime. Like, who do these people think they are? I pay you so much for this. That's
I
crazy.
know.
And
I
I'm
should
like,
get it
I
right. I
should
should get it today or
right now.
first
Like I
thing in the
should
morning.
press the button and someone just appears and is like, here you go. And I'm just like, thanks. Yeah, it's just instant gratification society. It's just everything should be happen right now. And some of it's, I mean, I don't know how much of it's like a good thing, I guess. It's a very convenient world that we live in today.
Yeah.
And maybe we can move faster than 20 years ago, like you're
Right.
saying, because of a lot of those new technologies and things that we have access to. But yeah, the mindset has shifted. The mindset has completely shifted to if I want to have something, if I want to do something, I should be able to get it very fast with very low effort.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it translates over into things that are very hard, like building wealth or building health. Um, and yeah, it just can't work that. Some things just will never work that way. You can't go from 400 pounds to 200 pounds, even with Ozempic. You can't do it that quickly. So you
Mhm.
have to be able to wait it out a little bit.
Yeah, and also focus on the transformation process. So that's where I'll focus on becoming more process focused versus outcome focused.
Hmm.
Outcome focused is I want that results right now. If I don't, well, once you get the results, I'm going to be happy.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times I'm sure you saw this in the corporate world? Once I get that promotion, if I'm able to make 5 extra sales calls, that's going to be an extra, let's say 10 grand. Then I'm going to be happy. And all of a sudden, I get that 10 grand. And it's like, that's it.
Yeah.
Versus what steps did you take to be able to earn those 5 extra sales calls?
Yeah.
What courage, what system did you develop? Because some people would do the paperclip system where they would have a bunch of paper clips and they would make one by one and they would not make done with calls until all those paper clips were done.
Yeah.
I think that was in The Power of Discipline by Daniel Walter. I want to say that's where that analogy comes from.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's a lot of different stories out there, and I'm sure you had to do what you had to do to bring in that extra funds, especially to pay off $190,000 in debt.
Yeah. The time where I've seen the most change in me happen, and I don't know if
Yeah,
I'm jumping the gun here, but like if I had advice for other people that are like feeling stuck or anything, was when I started on a daily basis. I talked about a little bit earlier, but like writing down a few things. For me, it was important to write down my long-term goal, right? Because I had
right.
kind of see the top, like what am I really doing all of this for? Where do I want to be in life? Where do I want my family to be in life? Like, what are the big things that are important to me that if I woke up in 10 years, I would want to have, or 20 years? Then I would write down like a short term goal that was more like a year long goal, and it would have to relate to that long term goal, right?
Mm,
And then underneath that, I would write down 3 to 5 actions for the day, and everything funneled though. So it was like those so when you're writing from the long term down to the day, it becomes very clear like what you need to do, right? And
right.
so I was able to kind of like go through and go, this is where I'm going to be in 10 years, this is what I want to have in 1 year, this is what I need to do today, these 3 to 5 things. And as long as I checked those boxes, I went to sleep happy. And I did that every single day. And it even made me more happy at work. Like I knew I was being productive outside of work and working towards something. And so it made me a little bit less burnt out in my normal job. And
Mhm.
you just keep doing that long enough, and you keep doing that long enough, and then all those little tick marks add up to results eventually, right? But for me, it was very helpful just to sit down with pen and paper every single morning and write that out. I would never do more than 5 actions, because then it becomes unrealistic, right? And then you just beat yourself up and you get discouraged when it doesn't happen. And I would never be disappointed though if I only had 2 things for the day and I got them both done and they were both very easy. And sometimes I would catch myself going, well, if I only did 2 things and they were both pretty easy, I should just be able to put more actions on my paper and do them. And I'd stop and I'd go, you probably could, but like, don't rush it. Like, if you do that every single day, it starts to become the expectation. Right. If I get my stuff done today and I wake up tomorrow and I can repeat and repeat and repeat for years, it's like a marathon, then I'll get the end result. If you try and sprint a little bit too hard every once in a while, you'll get winded and tap out. I know that from CrossFit, from many, many competitions, that if you start too strong, sometimes it is not a good thing.
No, I've not done CrossFit, so I can't really imagine that part. But from the analogy, yes, absolutely. Yeah. From just being winded and things like that. And that's like one of the major things too to kind of focus on is doing things which realistic.
Yeah.
If you have a list of 15 things you need to get done, majority of the time people might cross off 5 or 6. That's why they always recommend, kind of like what you're doing, that 2 to 5. Yeah. Because sometimes, and we forget this, sometimes less is more. Yeah. So, man, we got 2 things done. It's like, well, not every task is going to be weighted the same. There's going to be some tasks that are going to take more time and other tasks that will take less time. Yeah, that's right. That's right. And starting with something that's like not intimidating too, right? Oh, there you go. Because when you're taking something new on, if you're like, I'm going to try to do that for 2 hours or whatever, right? At some point, you're going to have to do it, and you're going to keep putting it off because you're like, that thing is really hard and it's really new, and I dedicated or I committed to doing it for a long time. So here's an example. This is something I'm doing actually today. I just wrote it down on my to-do list before our call. I decided I'm going to learn how to build an app. 0 coding skill, 0 like nothing skill. Wow. I can write on Twitter pretty good, and that's about it. I don't even call it the right name. It's X. So I've decided I'm going to build an app, and I've got a course lined up, really good course. And I thought about it today, and I was like, how much time today do I want to dedicate towards this course? I'm going to do 30 minutes. 30 minutes is nothing. I won't build an app in 30 minutes. I probably won't even get through like the logging into this course in 30 minutes. But mentally, I know I can do 30 minutes at any point today. That's not a problem. I can still fit my workouts in. It's not intimidating. I can still have comfortable things around me to make sure that I don't freak out. But I'm going to do 30 minutes. And I guarantee if I do 30 minutes today, 30 minutes tomorrow, the next day I'm going to wake up and want to do an hour. Right. And so, but if I had said I'm going to do 2 hours of app building today, that's very intimidating. And it might take up some of my workout time, and it might do this. And then I'm going to start making excuses. I got to pick my daughter up, and it's such a nice day out. I might as well do lawn work before I do the app course. And this and that is always going to pop up and push that thing that I'm afraid of further away until tomorrow. And so start simpler. Start like even working out. If you're new to working out, don't set a goal of I'm going to go to the gym for an hour a day. Set it for 15 minutes and make yourself stop after 15 minutes. You're going to be done with a set of bicep curls and your clock's going to go off, and it's going to be like, oh, I'm going to leave the gym now. No, you're not going to get results from 15 minutes probably, but you'll show up the next day. Right. So yeah, I know we've talked about kind of the same thing a lot of different ways, but I think it's really valuable. Like the whole point is to figure out ways to hack the system to make sure that you show up tomorrow. And there's a lot of ways to do it, I guess, but you got to find the right one for you. But yeah, when you want results, when you want the thing, you have to make sure that you set yourself up to show up tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. And you can do that, then you can get out of a burnt out job. You can get yourself back in shape. You can start your own business. You can pay off debt. You can do a lot of cool things as long as you figure that system out. Well, and sometimes a lot of points need to be said a lot of different ways for people to kind of click.
Yeah.
So for someone might be like, oh, I don't have to go to the gym for an hour. I can go for 15 minutes. I might click with
Yes.
that person.
Yeah.
Oh, I can start making a list of 2 things and I can still be successful versus a failure. Oh, cool. So there's nothing wrong about saying things many different ways, and because it shows people how important it is just to make things realistic, make things where you can fit in with that level of expectation and go out and do it. And like you said, you can be learning how to build an app. Okay, that's something I don't even know how to do, and that's something that is also I'm curious about doing too. So it's one of those things where it's like, huh, oh yeah, I guess you could spend 15 minutes, 30 minutes learning how to build an app. What is an app? What does it take?
Right.
Oh, I don't need to be a software engineer. I mean, eventually, if you had the funds to hire one, that might be a different story.
Yeah.
Someone who knows the code and what to do, because a lot of times people don't know code. I mean, more people nowadays, but then compared to us growing up, it was not that.
Yeah, for sure. The app building is going to be fun. I'll keep you posted on how it goes.
Yes,
I've got
definitely.
some fitness app ideas that I want to try and just make. And just as a teaser, I want to come up with a super simple workout app, right? Like the simplest UI user interface, user experience possible. Like zero complexity to it, where you literally it just asks you one question at a time. Like, what was the movement you did? How many reps did you do? Click enter, and it just submits it up into space, right? And
Nice.
then like Spotify Wrapped, how it gives you the top 10 songs that you played all year
Yeah.
long, top genres. I want this app to do that with your workouts, basically, where it would be like,
Ooh,
hey, this year
better get going on it because that's a great idea, and you don't want anyone to whip that up.
your top 5 movements this year were, squat, push-ups, pull-ups, and running, or whatever. I said 4, but you get the point. It's like
I do.
it's just kind of a fun way to like show people what they're doing, and then maybe on a more frequent basis, it could even say like, "Hey, you've done 800 squats this month and only 20 push-ups. Like maybe balance it out a little bit, right?" And so it could even recommend like, here's some upper body things that you might want to try out to balance your upper body and lower body. So it could just start out real simple with just
Right.
counting repetitions and just showing you a total sum of what you've done, almost like a little bit of a Strava
Yeah.
kind of a feel, but more with repetitions and workouts. And then yeah, I like the Spotify Wrapped idea. It's just a fun thing. People might share it on social media, or
Yeah.
do different things with it. But yeah, I'll keep you posted on that.
Yeah, and you're always gonna be welcome back too. So once you get that released and done, we'd love to have you come back on the podcast to
And
talk
pitch it.
about your app because I think that's a really neat idea. And in part of this podcast, I love to highlight not just men, but also their businesses too,
Yeah.
and all their creative adventures, what they're doing, whether they're coaching and kind of being a part of a servant leader is about making sure other people are taken care of first, putting others before yourself. And so make sure you guys go follow Doug. So in the description below, we're gonna have his X, his Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Let us know below. What do you call it? Do you call it Twitter? Do you call it X? Let's have a little bit of fun. Let's see the comments go. And then, his wife and his Instagram will also be down below and, consult them if you need anything. And I'm sure Doug and more so and his wife and will help you reach your fitness goals. So Doug, before we wrap up today, what would you like to leave with the audience today? So you got a young Doug just in the audience, needs a little bit of guidance, needs a little help. What would you tell that little young Doug?
Oh man, I've got a young daughter. Her name's not Doug, but just speaking to her, I will tell her the biggest life lesson that my dad ever taught me, which is just have fun. Make sure that whatever you're doing in life is fun for you. It doesn't matter. Like go find the things that have fun and do those things. Your life's too short. Like why waste it on stuff that you're not passionate about, that isn't that cool to you, that you don't show up and you're just like, this is a good time. So young people, especially out there, you will have more responsibilities the more life goes on. But if you're like 20 right now, 22, you're graduating college, you're trying to figure stuff out, my biggest advice is go find the stuff that really is fun for you and just do the heck out of that.
Love it. Have fun because a lot of times you get so focused on, well, I gotta go through school, I gotta go through this. Sometimes you forget to have fun. So go out there, have a little fun. And if you want to become a scholar of life, you can join the Men's Lifeline Academy Discord group Masterclass, where we meet on Mondays at 7 p.m. EST. It's a subscription based masterclass. So come on, join with us. DM me if you're interested, and so that way we can help you grow and reach your goals. So thank you, and remember, don't forget to share, like, and subscribe to this channel so that we can keep stellar men like Doug coming on the podcast. All right, thank you, everyone, and have a good day, Doug.
Thank you.